Thank you so much for joining our Promise Parent Support Group. This is typically a monthly meeting. It's typically Tuesdays at 7:30, the second Tuesday of every month. And we have a special second session this month because the Montgomery County Police Department's Autism, Intellectual and Developmental Disability, Alzheimer's Dementia Unit team is here to talk to us about some strategies for individuals who elope. So PROMISE again it stands for promoting meaningful interaction and social engagement. And it's actually just a community of parents of children with disabilities. So this is a monthly Zoom that everyone is welcome to join. And we're especially lucky to have you here today. Today we have Lori Reyes and Amy Stoughton from the MCPD department, and they're going to share some strategies for us. So welcome.
Hello, welcome. While you're getting set up, we'll do an introduction while you're getting the screen shared. So I'm Officer Lori Reyes, and we're with the Montgomery County Police out in Maryland. We started this unit 20 years ago in 2004. So we'll talk about the unit, but Amy and I always like to share. So I'm also a University of Maryland graduate. I know that you guys are affiliated too with UMD. And I have a son that graduated from University of Maryland just last year. So Amy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Officer Amy Stoughton. I've been on the police department here in Montgomery County for about 27 years. Laurie and I actually were in the police academy together at the same time. So it's kind of neat. We get to, or I get to finish out my career with working with her. I'm from Pennsylvania. I went to college at the University of Iowa, swam on a swim team out there. And after that, worked at a YMCA for a while until I got the job here with Montgomery County, and now I'm working with this unit. So,
and Amy did about 25 years in our patrol division. And so that's quite remarkable. And then she's been with this unit about 3 years. So our unit, we want to say, even before we begin, we're going to go through who we are, what we do, and information on preventing wandering and elopement. But know that if there's something that we didn't cover, any questions you have at the end, you're gonna have access to our contact information should you need to reach out to us that you think of a question that you didn't ask tonight. So very important. And also, if there's someone that might be of benefit to this material, you can forward them the brochure. We're going to put a link at the end of this that you'll be able to forward them the brochure. And the brochure has just about everything in it that we are going to cover during this presentation. A little bit about our unit. Again, it was created in 2004, so we're about 20 years into our unit. And as it relates to even autism specifically, you look at the diagnosis rates, and I do usually share when I started the unit in 2004, the diagnosis rate of autism was about 1 in 150 births, and now it's about 1 in 44 to as many as 1 in 39. So we're obviously seeing an increase in prevalency and age. And the unit, Amy and I provide education, which is training to officers, individuals, caregivers, and the community. Follow-up, Amy's going to talk about our follow-ups. We average about 700 follow-ups a year. Education, again, presentations, empowerment. We invite those who have autism to present, and other intellectual disabilities to present and work with us, work with our unit in education, as well as some of our outreach events. Next slide. I think it's important to share that our unit provides outreach, and we're focused a lot on autism, but that's because kind of what brought us here today is the number of elopements we're seeing in the autism community. But it's important to know that our unit provides outreach to not only autism, but other intellectual developmental disabilities, as well as Alzheimer's and dementia. That's important to know. Then specific to autism, it's also important to know that we provide outreach to the entire spectrum of autism. For those that are kind of in immediate danger, should they elope, all the way to those that are driving or are going to college, and everything in between. So our unit is very aware of providing a total approach to the entire spectrum of autism. But what brings us here today is that many of our usually young kiddos that we're finding after elopements is they're more profound autism sometimes, where they don't, many are kind of navigating their way to what their level of independence is going to be. So I think that's important to say, that we do make sure that all are provided the services they need in the community. Some of our recent initiatives, we work with and partner with our school system, with Montgomery County Public Schools on a regular basis. Just tonight, we set up 3 more events with schools dropping off safety information. We are in constant influx of working and partnering with our school system. We have a class where for individuals who are driving with disabilities. We work with Pathfinders for autism on that, but that's open to all intellectual developmental disabilities. Like I said, Amy's going to talk about her amazing work and her follow-ups. We're probably close to 600 or 700 this year. And our partnerships. I mean, that's what makes this unit so great, is that we do partner with other agencies, just like right now, partnering with other groups to provide information and develop and build those bridges so that families and caregivers feel comfortable coming in and interacting, and most importantly, know to call 911 should they need us. Next slide. So I'm going to let Amy do this slide. The reason I think most of us are here today, and what brought us here, is talking about prevention of wandering and elopement. And before I turn it over to Amy, some important statistics. In the last month or so, we've had over 50 incidences of those who have autism, usually school-aged individuals on the autism spectrum, that have wandered, oftentimes to very dangerous locations. Unfortunately, we're all aware that there was the loss of an individual in a pond, and then we had another child that was also a tragic death due to wandering again and drowning. So what brings us here tonight is trying to prevent the elopement, but most important is knowing that it can happen. The elopement can happen. It happens to the best of caregivers, truly, but it can happen. So when we go through all this tonight, we want to leave you empowered and not in fear. We want you to have the tools that you need and know that you can reach out to us and understand how important it is to call 911 right away. So now I'm going to turn it over to Amy to talk a little bit about the prevention side.
Hi, everyone. Lori, let me know if I'm going ahead of my turn here. But so one of the things I get to do when our officers actually have a call, where we're going to use an example of a child with autism who has wandered from the home. So again, we're gonna say this probably 100 times. The very first thing caregivers, moms, dads, grandparents, brothers, sisters are going to do is, as soon as you realize that your child who may have autism has wandered or eloped, we stress to call 911 immediately. That is the most important thing we're here to tell you, that it's okay to call 911. You're not going to get in trouble. So after we've had this occurrence, I do a lot of follow-ups with the families. And that's the first thing that I talk to families about. I tell them, great job for calling the police. You did the right thing. We're here for you. And then we just talk about the situation. We talk about the incident that happened. How did your child elope? Did he or she go out the back door? Did they go through the garage door? Did they crawl out a window? So a lot of times we talk about prevention and safety for inside the home. And the first thing that's on the list here are door alarms or ring cameras. So a lot of times these kiddos get out of the house and we're finding them, our officers or citizens are finding them before the caregivers or parents realize that they've gone missing. So one of the ways we try to prevent this from happening again is talking about chimes, inexpensive chimes that you could get on Amazon, placing them near doors or windows, alarms, cameras, just so you have some kind of alert or notification that your child has opened a window or a door. Inside the brochure that you're going to see later, you'll see it's a neighbor letter. If you're comfortable, and this is just for families, if you feel comfortable and want to be open and share, we encourage you to share with your neighbors that your loved one or child may have autism, and it'll tell the neighbor the child's name, age, it'll give your name, your phone number, and basically it's saying that, hey, if you see my child alone, please call me or call 911. Identification bracelets. We really encourage children and adults also, if they have a tendency to wander, maybe they can't speak for themselves. It's important to have some kind of identification on them. So we recommend an ID bracelet where you can get it from roadid.com. I can put that in the notes in a little bit. It's roadid.com. It's basically a bracelet you can wear that will list your caregiver's name and an emergency telephone number. It's not GPS. We'll talk about tracking. We kind of have a love-hate relationship with the tracking device. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Also inside our brochure is going to be what's called a 911 script. It's important because we know anytime someone has to call the police, of course you're going to be nervous. This is a scary event, and we realize that. So in that brochure is what we call a 911 script. And it kind of prepares you for exactly what you would want to tell 911 when you call. So it's already prepared for you. That way, when you're in that situation and you're all hyped up and we're all nervous, you're going to have stuff written out so that you don't forget what to tell that call taker when you do call 911. Introducing your children to police officers, having conversations, social stories. If you're comfortable, we always say you're the advocate for your child. And especially if you do have to call 911, letting them know right away that my child has autism. He or she may not be able to speak. Being an advocate and saying and telling the officers right away, my child may have autism. In the schools, absolutely very important, having that IEP in place and letting those teachers know that your child who may have autism may have a tendency to wander or elope from the school or the home. And these are just some of the things that when I do my follow-ups, we talk about safety tips, things that might and hopefully can prevent a future elopement from happening.
Good job, Amy. Next slide. And we're going to allow for questions at the end too. So some things to consider when, okay, you have that moment of, holy moly, my child is missing. I need to call 911. I'm gonna remember what Lori and Amy said. I'm gonna be calm and I'm gonna be an advocate when I call. You know, I've been in situations where my children have had emergencies and I didn't do it perfectly. I didn't handle the situation perfect. But I will say this, I tell parents all the time, just take a deep breath. Know that you're going to have to say what you need and explain where the child is missing from, give a diagnosis. We'll get into that in a second, but mostly the first item is being calm when you call. And this is important too. If you have your child or loved one that's being cared for by a grandma, a grandpa, a sibling, you've got to have conversations with them about calling 911 is okay. And they too need to know what to do and say should they call. Explain why it's so important for them to be calm and give the information that's needed. Be prepared to provide a full physical description of what they're wearing, where they may go. Again, Amy had mentioned the 911 script. Take a look at that on the brochure. If you fill it out, great. but at least be familiar with what we might be asking you, as well as what you might have to provide at the time that your loved one is missing. Be familiar with that. It's like a mental mindset of empowerment. That's what we're kind of focused on tonight. Where will they go? Will they possibly go to bodies of water? Have they been curious about water recently, playing in the sink or the bathtub, or more focus on water? Or have they been focused on the McDonald's that's down the street? Think about where they might go, because it's a pretty good indicator and a good place to start for us. Be as open as you can about your child's ability to navigate the community alone. Will they look both ways if they cross the street? Will they get onto a bus? Right? We never underestimate. Use examples of what could be a danger to them. Be very descriptive in the capabilities. Be also use plain language as well. If your child is diagnosed as having autism, or they're in the process of being diagnosed, say all of that. Be very descriptive, and make sure, this is true for our school age students, make sure that when your child goes to school, that you ask the school to call you if your child should wander, and make sure that the school staff knows to call 911 right away as well. Make sure that you tell that principal and assistant principal, don't search on your own, you need to call 911. Next slide. Amy, you want to hit this one?
Sure. When you do call 911, we always ask that someone stays at the home where the person was last seen, because when you call 911, you're going to give out all that information to the call taker, but it's very important when those officers do arrive on scene that you're providing them information as well. And it's really important, if you can, to have a picture ready, because what we can do now, if you have a picture of your child, you can give that picture to the officer that arrives on scene, and they can then share that picture via our computers in our cruisers now with everyone out there looking. So it's really important to, and you might think of something different that you may have forgotten to tell the call taker when the officer shows up. Don't be alarmed if, when the officers do show up, they might search your house again. I just want to make sure everyone knows that. It's not because they don't believe you, but trust me, in a panic moment, we might find them hiding under the bed or in a closet that we just may have missed. So we are trained in the academy that when we go on these types of calls, to research the home too, just to make sure that they're not tucked away somewhere or playing hide and go seek. And Laurie said about, being upfront with how long your child may have been missing. And I like to hit on this just because I was in patrol for so long. The reason we want you to be as forthcoming as possible when you're calling 911, we know it can be, it's traumatic, and you might feel embarrassed or think, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm a terrible parent. That's not the case at all. If your child has possibly been missing for, say, 45 minutes to an hour, let us know. And the reason that's so important is because if you tell us, well, they might have been missing for 10 or 15 minutes, our officers are going to set up a smaller perimeter looking for that child. Whereas if you say, hey, I really don't know, it may have been 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to spread out a lot further. And it's really important. If you know, most officers are pretty good about their beats they work, but if you know of a place that a place that is a body of water, like a small stream, creek, whatever, storm drain, let those officers know. Let's see.
I think you got it.
Yeah, I think we did hit everything. Any kind of dangerous places. It could be railroad tracks, highways, pools next door to the neighbors. Let that officer know.
Yeah, so important. Thank you, Amy. All right, next slide. Amy, this is you again. This is kind of, you want to tell them a little bit about what you do. This is part of your follow-up, kind of.
Sure. A lot of times, some of the times when I'm talking to these family members or caregivers, all they need is a listening ear. Sometimes they just need to hear another voice on the end of the phone. And I feel like Laurie and I can be that voice saying, hey, it's okay. You're not the only one. like Lori said, we run probably 3 to 8 calls like this a week. So I'm always telling people, don't feel embarrassed. You're not alone. This happens all the time, and our officers are very well trained to know how to deal with these incidents. Sometimes we might have a child who's, maybe making some bad choices or making some bad decisions, or maybe wandering more often than typical. Sometimes there is the need that Lori and I can go out and do a home visit with that family, where we'll actually go out to the house, sit down with mom and dad or the caregivers and the child, and just talk openly about, what do they have autism and how does that make them feel? And are they having issues in school? And just talk about some of the decisions or concerns that moms and dads might have. It's just a little bit more of a personal level with some of our cases. We are definitely referring them to resources, making sure that they know that there are resources out there. We partner closely with Pathfinders for Autism, which is an excellent resource for parents. It talks about the autism waiver form. It talks about swimming lessons, lots and lots of resources and information with this group. We do a lot of community events. We do fairs. We go out to schools. Lori already explained that we do a traffic stop. It's called mock traffic stops, where we may have an individual who's learning to drive, where we'll actually have officers come out with our cruisers and do pretend traffic stops with the individual so that they know what to do if they were ever pulled over by a police officer. And one of the things I found most helpful with this as a police officer, not only is it helping that individual learn what to do, but it helps it helps other officers out there to know what it feels like to pull someone over. We're always learning too. So it's a really neat program that has been developed. Those individuals that may not be able to speak for themselves or in crisis, we provide safety kit drop-offs. What's included in that safety drop-off is our brochure, the Pathfinders brochure. Also in that will be a bright yellow shirt. It's a t-shirt that says, "I have autism. If you see me alone, call 911." And I think 2 or 3 of our calls recently, we've had citizens seeing individuals wearing those bright yellow shirts that actually called 911, and we were able to get them safely transported back to their loved ones. Also in the safety kit, there are window clings so that you can put this on your window of your home or on your car, letting someone know that someone with autism might be inside this vehicle. And then in the glove box, there's some information that you can provide, say you are ever pulled over by a police officer. And like she said, we do a lot of coordination with Montgomery County Public Schools. We go out and we teach the providers at the schools, and we also teach individuals. So it's a great collaboration that we do have.
Thank you, Amy. Next slide. So this is we always share this slide. We'll call him Mr. M. This is a young man we've worked with for many years. He has been the focus of about 130 different searches and elopements. So I share that because it goes to show you how we keep at it. We work with the caregivers. There's nothing punitive, right? He's navigating his way to independence, and obviously this is a unique case in some ways that there's so many incidences, but we share this slide with our officers because our guy put a bed pillow underneath his comforter so that when the care provider looked inside, it looked like he was asleep. But he wasn't asleep. He was navigating his way from Germantown to the Wheaton Glenmont station via public transportation. And so we share that for our officers because you might underestimate this young man's ability to travel the distances that he's able to travel. Next slide. Real quick on tracking. So if you decide to go a tracking route for your loved one, and that's true for autism, IDD, or Alzheimer's and dementia, just make sure that you don't solely rely on tracking. I think it's important to know that, just this last weekend, we have a family that's attempting to use tracking, and they're just having it's a challenge keeping it on. keeping it operational, keeping it charged up. So just know that tracking should be the last step in safety, and really do your homework with tracking devices. I don't have anything against them. We no longer provide them ourselves, but just do the homework and make sure that you're using any tracking device properly and in conjunction with the other safety measures that we went over here and are in our brochure. Next slide. This is our safety kit. Again, this shirt, like Amy was mentioning, it's really only designed for those individuals that are in immediate danger. And it's not designed for those that are navigating their way to independence. And we're very strict in providing this shirt in a way that is used only for those that truly need it. And this is below that is our window cling for the car. Many times our guys can have some challenges with transitions, and that might be the car. So you can have incidences involving a car, and if officers rolled up or saw something, or community members, they might think, oh, right, this is a person who's on the autism spectrum. That parent might be in need. So it's just part of our outreach. Next slide. Here is our contact information, both of our emails, and I think we're going to go real quick. The next slide, is that the brochure we can go through? So this is the QR code of our brochure, and inside you will find and there's also a website too. I'm not sure if I gave you guys the link, and I'm pretty certain if you took a picture right now of that QR code, you could have access to our brochure. But Amy, can you put the link? Yeah, if you put the link in. So the brochure is really, again, it contains our 911 script, the neighbor letter, our contact information, and a bunch of other community outreach resources on the back page. So I'm pretty sure you'd be able to take a picture of it. But Amy's going to put the
Yeah, it
brochure
works.
link.
I just tried it. It does work.
Okay, awesome. And so that's another way to save it. And I don't think there's another slide, right? Is this it? And if not, we can always answer questions, or just know that if you, let's see. Oh, that's it. Okay, so if there are any questions, we'll take them. But if you had a question later, or someone who's listening to this recording that wanted to ask a question, at a later time, you certainly can take a picture of the QR code. It has all of our contact information as well on the back of the brochure. Oh, there you go. So, yep, this is our brochure, and I think, let's see, even if we just go through it. There you go. So this is our autism, IDD, Alzheimer's prevention tips, kind of things we went over today. Can kind of scroll down. This is our young man, Jake, who's showing off his ID bracelet. And there's more, and keep going. And this is our 911 script Amy was talking about. And again, the 911 script is really just a way to get into a mental mindset. Great to fill out, especially if you have other family members caring for your child or loved one. So just go over that and scroll down. That's more of just information on the 911 script. And keep scrolling. That's an example of a map. It's not a bad idea to pull up a Google map of where you live, so that in the event officers would respond, you would be able to point out destinations of interest or bodies of water immediately, and be able to provide it to officers. Officers can do the same thing, but it's good for you to be able to direct them as well with a map. Keep scrolling. Here's our neighbor letter. So again, Amy and I mentioned, this isn't something for everyone. If you feel comfortable sharing with your neighbors, we can certainly articulate why letting your neighbors know that your child may wander is important. We've had many instances, many recently, where individuals have wandered into other people's homes. And not to be an alarmist, but we just had a young man who's wasn't initially drawn to water, but last weekend he eloped to a neighbor's home and started to run a bath in their bathtub. So again, the neighbors called 911, but they didn't know who he was. So it's just a good idea to maybe just let your neighbors know if you feel comfortable. Awareness through action. This is our pictures of us at our traffic stop and pictures of Amy and I at some of our classes at MCPS, teaching the students. And then scrolling down further is just some more of our outreach events. And a little further is our Alzheimer's and dementia. Same kind of tools, the 911 script, what to say, all same premise. Keep scrolling. I would say we're pretty much equal for individuals who have autism and individuals who have Alzheimer's and dementia that wander. It's about 50-50. This is just more of our brochure, some of our awards that we've provided to families we've worked with. Just keep scrolling, and again, same information. You can keep scrolling. It's our dementia letter. And this is again a picture of some of our outreach, what we offer, our window clings. This is great if you wanted to share this brochure for someone who's not here. All right, and keep scrolling, and we're just about at the end. So our last page is our resource page and our contact information. Always on the back page. That is our emails and phone numbers. All right, and that concludes everything. If you guys wanted to share with loved ones, with family members, please share, and families or caregivers can reach out to us anytime.